Hey, Conscious Habit listeners. My goal is to help support you on your journey of discovering how to live from your highest and most fulfilled self at home and at work. And in that vein, I have some thoughts I'd like to share with you today. So meditate on this. Let's talk about the bitch in the attic. And shout out to Laura Hyman that we had on the podcast who shared this phrase. She didn't take credit for it, but I'm giving her credit because I had never heard it before and I love it. The bitch in the attic is your ego, your inner roommate, your inner critic, whatever name you want to give it. It's that little voice within that, if we listen to it, can create a lot of chaos. And I don't think ego is all bad. It's there for a reason. It's there to protect us. But if it's driving the show, ooh, it's a shit show. Let me tell you, that's what's creating on the other end. Ego, in my mind, is that part of us that keeps us feeling like we have to prove or earn. It's that part of us that loves to judge others and ourselves. It loves to judge us as better or worse than. So we're constantly reflecting how we're doing in the world based on what we see. Like, ooh, they think they're better than me, or they didn't do much with their life. It loves to judge because the ego needs to feel powerful at times and it needs to feel powerless at times. Again, it keeps us guessing and questioning. And if we believe every thought that the ego has, every belief that the ego brings to us, it's likely we're going to deal with a lot of internal suffering, whether we're aware of it or not. And I think creating that awareness, I'm going to talk about awareness all the time because it's a huge part of us being conscious, but being aware of, ooh, what gets that inner judger going? What are the things that it really likes to take hold of? When I'm feeling angry, frustrated, misaligned, what's the story that I'm believing up there? And I think that there's like four main stories that the ego loves to connect to. And it has us guessing and feeling like we need to earn that worthiness and that approval. One of those stories is the story of the achiever. And the ego says, hey, you got to go out and do more, bigger, better. There are people who are better than you. You need to go earn more money. You haven't sold more this year. Are you living in that big fancy house? It's constantly feeling like it has to prove its worthiness through achievement, through being the best, through being number one. Then there's a part of the ego that feels like it has to earn its worthiness by being liked by other people. And that part of the ego says, gosh, if they just would like me, if they laugh at my jokes, if they invite me, if they see the goodness in me, then maybe I can too. But that doesn't happen. And we know that doesn't happen because the folks whose ego is hell bent on their being liked and likability, when someone gives them a compliment, they doubt it, they downplay it, they reject it. Then there's a part of the ego that tells us that we have to do for everyone else. We have to anticipate their needs. It's our job to take care of people, that we are an empath. And if we feel the emotion, it's our job to rescue it. And we burden ourselves with the needs of other people while ignoring our own needs. And the ego says, if you focus on you, you're selfish. If you tell them no, you're selfish. And it believes that worthiness will be earned through martyrism, which never happens. And the last part, the perfectionist. That part of the ego says, you have to be perfect. You can't make mistakes. Look at what you did, you idiot. They're smarter than you. You know, you could have done better. They're really difficult and have these extremely high standards for themselves and for everyone else. And I don't think it's not all bad. Like, the thing is, if we believe our worthiness hinges upon success, we're never going to reach it because we'll just keep kicking the ball further out. If we think our worthiness hinges upon being liked, we'll never reach it because not everybody's ever going to like us, nor should they. That's just not how that's not how this works. And our need for them to like us is a reflection of us not truly liking ourselves. If we think our worthiness hinges upon service, we may be serving with agendas. And so it's not unconditional. We aren't truly giving of other people. We're actually giving in hope of receiving only for that reason. And by the way, there's a balance there. We should be good givers and good receivers. And then perfectionism, if that's what we believe our worthiness hinges upon, we're never going to reach it because what is perfection? We can always change the definitions to ensure that we never reach it. And so the goal here is with that bitch in the attic, if you will, to ensure that she's not running the show, he's not running the show, that you recognize when those stories come up, and then you have really good practices in order to shift it. Some of those practices can be rewriting the story. It can be through meditation. It can be through breath work. It could be through working with a therapist. It could be through EFT and tapping. There's many different tools you can use to begin to rewrite the story of the ego. But step one is noticing. Step two is reminding it, I'm good. I'm safe. And I think the next piece is learning how to love ourselves just as we are with full acceptance. Let connecting and loving you be the cake, and the achieving or the being liked or the serving or the being a perfectionist, let that be the icing if there's motivation in it for you. But if we make that the cake, we are never satisfied.